So we do want to thank you for joining us here today. And some of you kind of like, what's going on? Why am I here? And we really wanted you to know that the people that are in this room, whether you want to believe this or not, without you and your participation, you guys are like the top, like the 10, 20% of our church that are serving and blessing our church in every way. Without the people in this room, we wouldn't be able to do ministry on any given Sunday. So can you give yourselves a round of applause for how you serve our church? We just want to thank you for that. You really are exemplary in the sense of really practicing commitment to our church, and we just really do thank you for that. Also, our church, in the next few weeks, we're going to be embarking on this really big thing. And we wanted you to be the first to kind of know. Some of our other staff members, leaders of our church, they know about this. Our stakeholders know. But we wanted you to be also amongst the first to know, so that on April 29, my dates are bad, this is not going to come as a shock to you, because we just want you to know that this is how much we value you, your participation, and your thoughts on our church. And so, so that's a big thing. So again, from the bottom of my heart, Kevin's heart as well, we just want to thank you so much for all that you do for our church. This is the Leaders Launch event, and some of you may not even consider yourself to be a leader, but you are in some capacity, and I hope you know that. And some of you know that, but some of you don't. But you're here because we do see, and your history in our church, that you've been a part of us, we feel like you are definitely, you've showed and you've displayed leadership qualities at our church, and you've also served in that capacity at some time or another. So from the bottom of our heart, we just want to thank you. Metro would not be where it's at today if it wasn't for you. Really, it's the truth. And so we thank you. We are really a summation of our people and our volunteers, who are literally the arms and the feet of what our church is all about, and we wouldn't be able to do that without you. Just to kind of share with you some things that are happening, things that have happened in the past 14 years. We celebrate our 14th year anniversary this week. And 14 years old, 4404. It's easy to remember. So Angie came into my office and she said, "Happy anniversary." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Today's Metro's anniversary," and I had forgotten. And what I didn't know is this: our start date is the same day in which Martin Luther King was assassinated. And I didn't make that connection. And I was just like, wow, that's pretty crazy that we started at 4:04 and Martin Luther King was shot on that date. And so I think there's a special meaning behind that as well. But we did celebrate our 14th anniversary. 14 years ago, we started with 11 people, and one of them was an unbelieving family member of mine, my brother-in-law, one. And he said, "Man, this church is so small." And he just felt bad. He said, "Listen, I'll be a part of this church, but once you get to 50, I'm leaving." All right, that was his thing. He says, "Once you get to 50 people, I'm out of here." And so I said, "Thank you, I appreciate that." So he really joined our core team out of compassion for me and for his sister. We're family, so we stick together. And we got past 50 and he never left. He's one of the most faithful people that come out. He serves. He found his wife at Metro Community Church. So he should be thanking me, right? Should be thanking me for that. But our church has really grown. And we average about 800 people every given Sunday. And that's about 500 or a little bit more, 550 or so adults, and about 250 to 300 kids. So our church has just been booming, it's been growing, and we're sensing the life of what's happening here at Metro. And I think you can agree on that as well, that there's been this life. Last Sunday at our Easter service, we had over 1,200 people come out to our Easter service, and it was just amazing, wasn't it? From worship, what Patrice did, from Pastor Doug, and the skit, the song, the dance. That dance I watched it about 30 times this week. Sunita and I partnering for the word, and God just did some amazing things, and it shows again that God is moving in this church. He's alive. He really is alive, and we're just so grateful for that. And almost every Sunday, somebody always says yes to Jesus for the very first time. And so there is life transformation happening, but I'm going to be very honest with you. We are not doing ministry at Metro at maximum capacity. We're just not. It's not happening anymore. And you guys remember the time when I broke my hand a couple months ago? Because I played with my dog. Remember I had that silly cast on? That massive cast? For 2.5, 3 months, I just felt like my body was not at maximum capacity. I had to have my wife wrap things around my hands so I could take a shower. I mean, I was really dependent upon other people because I wasn't really functioning at maximum capacity. Especially when I got surgery, I had to get like this metal rod in my hand. And it just was not a good place for me to be. But I still carried on, and I did the best that I could. I still preached on Sunday. You saw me with that silly cast on. You know, I didn't say, hey, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to just wait till I heal completely to do this. So life did carry on, but it wasn't at maximum capacity. And that's what I want you to know. And in many ways, today at Metro, we are not functioning at maximum capacity. What I mean by that is that we've really outgrown this building. We've really outgrown our office building. I mean, if you've been to Holy Week last week, it was all standing room only. We had people standing up during service because you can't fit more than maximum 50 people in there. And so kind of like when I had that broken hand, I was not functioning at maximum capacity. This church currently is not functioning at maximum capacity. Our youth group, which is like this great group of folks that are growing, our young people under Pastor Clay's leadership, there is revival happening in our youth group, and you need to know that. Amen, parents? Especially who's got parents that have kids in their youth group. Let's thank Pastor Kevin. I'm not Pastor Kevin, Pastor Clay for all the hard. Is he here? Oh, there he is. Come on, Clay. It was his birthday on Saturday. And his wife's pregnant. God just blessed his life. He's really, look like he's all red. But anyway, God's doing some amazing things in our youth group, and we're so thankful for that. But if you ever go upstairs on a Sunday, check out what it looks like. Check out what a joint service looks like. It's standing room only. Even if our kids wanted to invite their friends, they couldn't do it because there's really no place to put them, right? And so we're really we're at a disadvantage even with our youth ministry. I know for the senior high that when they get together, they can't really congregate in a room. They just break up into small groups, into other classrooms. And that's okay. We're going to function that way, but it's not at maximum capacity. It really isn't. Our Sunday service is at maximum capacity. We've been 95% full for the past couple years, and it just continues to be at maximum capacity. And our second service is so full that, we basically used all the chairs. There's every inch of this facility here, of this space, is pretty much at max, or at max. And so as a result of that, the parking lot's really full, and it gets a little hard, and there's just a lot of things. And church experts say that when a church gets to more than 75 to 80% at capacity, it'll start to shrink, because nobody wants to be elbow to elbow with other people. And people won't come because they may not find the seat and things like that. And so our Sunday services, really, we're not functioning at maximum capacity because we just don't have more space for more folks to come, even if they wanted to come. And so that's been a struggle for us as well. Metro Kids, Metro Tots, Metro Nurseries, the ministries are all growing. And again, because it's getting so full, I think Metro Kids has a great media center where they can just continue to grow into. But when you look at Metro Tots and that Metro Nursery, oh my goodness. It is so overwhelming in there, and it is just over capacity, and it's preventing us from doing full ministry at maximum capacity. We tried to have a third service, remember that? It didn't work. None of you came to our third service. And I thought the single people would do that, but none of you came. And so we tried 3 services, but it just didn't work for us. And I'm not at a place where I want our youth, our children's ministers to serve for 3 services. I'm not going to go there with our children's ministry and things like that, because that's one of the things that my friends have said, well, you need to have children's ministry, because no one's going to bring their kids if you don't have children's ministry at third service. And we're not ready to do that, because we don't want to overwork our folks. So our office space, many times we've had to tell people that they have to, and ministry leaders and directors and staff members, that you can't have a meeting here because there's just no space. We just don't have space. And I think for Easter was probably the greatest example. We had choir practice with the dance team, we had the worship team, all in one office, and it was hard, so much so that actually the choir had to go to somebody's house going forward, because there's just no room. We're not functioning at maximum capacity. It's just so full. And as a result of that, it's really hindering the kind of ministry that we could really do if we had some space that can continue to, that we can grow into. Metro Community Center, thank God for Pastor Sunita's leadership. And what's up, young man? High five. Oh, it's all right. I'm not hurt. thank God for Pastor Sunita's leadership and for Michael W. Smith and Steve Bang, who are overseeing the Metro Life, which is an acronym that stands for Living in Freedom Every Day. And we've had 25 students who have been a part of the history of Metro Life, and 24 of the 25 have graduated from high school, which is a huge, huge accomplishment. I'll tell you why that is. And all of them have gone either to college or they've gone to a trade school. One didn't, and there's a reason why that's happened. And I think I can clarify that. One of the 25 got pregnant during the time, and as a result, she had to drop out of the program. It's really a success story here in Englewood that we're working with some of the quote-unquote potentially at-risk young people here, and God has given us opportunities to partner with these young kids. And Michael has been doing a tremendous job, and Steve have been doing a tremendous job of creating a life-on-life relational program. And it's been so great. It really has been. Clay does the middle school basketball, and kids come to play basketball, but even before they do that, he tries to connect with them in such a way where seeing if they need homework help, these 8th graders. And so that's been really great. We have an arts program that we do once a year with the town. We partner with Parks and Rec, and we host an entire arts camp for their 200-300 kids that they have there. And it's also just an amazing opportunity. But again, we are not at full capacity in what we can do with our community center because we don't really have a space where we can invite people to come and we can do ministry and even large numbers. To give you some statistics of what's happening right now in Englewood, it's pretty staggering. Sunita has worked on doing a lot of research here in the city, kind of where people are. And we don't have great statistics of high school kids because they've merged the academies of Englewood with Dwight Morrow. And so we don't really have good statistics on high school kids, but we have good statistics on 8th graders who graduate from 8th grade and go to 9th grade. We're basically sending 8th graders into high school almost illiterate. 39% of 8th graders in Englewood, they go to 9th grade, and only 39% of them have passed their English language arts in the Parks test. Only 39%. 13% of 8th graders meet their expectations in math. And that statistic came out 2 years ago. They didn't publish this year's statistic because they said it was even lower. And so they didn't. 13% of 8th graders are graduating and they've met their expectations for math. And so we're sending these kids to school, high school, with an inability to be successful in school. And why would they want to engage and stay there? Why would they want to finish school when they're failing out of it? And that's why Englewood has, unfortunately, a statistic that we're not proud of. They send the highest number of young kids to juvenile detention centers. And you know the statistics. If a kid goes to juvenile detention centers, when they become an adult, over 95% chance that they're going to go back to prison. So there's this tremendous need that's happening here right now in the city. Englewood is a beautiful city. It's a place where the arts pulsates. You got the Bergen Pack theaters. You got, upper Englewood areas where some of the richest people in the country live. We have celebrity CEOs that live in this town, right? Amazing artists that live in this town. And there's so much wealth here, but 25% of the population in this city make less than $25,000 a year. It's just the reality of what's happening. We are not able to do ministry at maximum capacity because we just don't have space. Our community center, there's tremendous needs in Englewood, but we're not really able to fully exercise and do ministry to continue to be at maximum capacity for Metro Community Center because we don't have a space. And so our vision and why we invited you here is that it's really time for Metro to find a building that we can call home. A building that we can tailor-make for ourselves, for our church, so that we can continue to do ministry at maximum capacity. That's our hope. And what I want you to think about is this. I want you to think 3 times bigger. I want you to think about a sanctuary space that seats not 300 people, but 900. I want you to think about a youth group room that doesn't just seat 40, 50 kids, but can seat up to 150 to 200 kids. All right? Everything is going to be 3 times. Our office space will be 3 times bigger. There's going to be a basketball court so that we can do greater recreational programs for the city here, and even for us. We can use a basketball court for us as well. But think about just a building that we can finally call home. After being portable for 14 years, I still kind of like being portable. I love coming here early, just kind of setting up the church. There's something gratifying about that you can build something with your hands, because I'm not a good builder. So it feels good to just do something like that once in a while.
but it's time that we find our own home now. And we're thinking of anywhere between 40 to 60,000 square feet. Now this building is 90, but we're not using it at its maximum capacity. We're just we're using whatever the school gives to us, but we're thinking about 40 to 60,000 square feet that's going to be really tailored to our needs. And we'll be able to design it in that way. And so we're thinking about doing that. And so the plan is simply this, is that when we start this series on April 29th, our plan is that we would get to a place. We're going to start a sort of a Beyond the Building campaign. That's the name of the campaign that we're calling it, Beyond the Building. And it's more than just a church building. This building is really for us to create a legacy here in Englewood, where we can be a part of something like this. And I don't know, I said this to our leadership team, but where do we ever get an invitation like this? That God is calling us to come together as a church, to be a part of something where we wouldn't just build a building for ourselves, but we'd be able to build a building for this community here of Englewood. Englewood, in its rich history, has never had a community center. This will be the first of its kind. That it would be intentionally, there for the city and for the kids, and that we can do that. We can do it now because we got Pastor Sunita's leadership. She's a child. She was not born here, but she was here ever since elementary school to now. And where are we ever going to get an opportunity where what we do in the next few months, especially the next few years, can impact the trajectory of this city forever, especially amongst its youth? I get really excited about that, and I hope that you do as well, that this is an invitation in which God is giving to you and to me to be a part of this. And so we're so thankful that we do have an opportunity to do something like this. So can we get the mission proposition? We wrote up a mission proposition. It's really one per family. We don't have enough for everyone here, so it's really one per family, and so we can just kind of hand it around. We're going to be passing it around to you, so please make sure you grab one per family. One per family. And what I need from you, most of all, is that we don't have time to read the whole thing, but my plea to you is that you would spend time reading this with your spouse if you're married, but that you would spend time reading it from cover to cover. It's only like 7-8 pages. But we spent so much time writing this, all right? Started out with me, with my writing, then Tim made it sound beautiful. Then we got together with our stakeholders, and then they gave some amazing feedback on it. Is Renee here? No? Okay, it's okay. But Renee took all that feedback, and she made it even better. And then Angie, where's Angie? And then Angie this week even made it sing even more. It's been through like 6 revisions. We worked hard on it.
And then Kathy right at the very end.
Oh, really? Kathy, where Kathy at? And then she finished it all up at the very end. I mean, this thing has gone through so much revision and rewriting over and over again. And this is going to help you to be fully in the know of what we feel is happening, what God is leading our church to do. The leadership team, the pastoral staff, all believe that God has positioned us at this time in this season of our church's history to come together as a congregation and to move this thing forward. And in order for this to happen, it's not going to happen just through me or Pastor Kevin. We got to all come together. You guys allow our church to be our church because you serve in this capacity, in whatever capacity that you serve in. Metro wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for your participation. And we're asking you to come on board with us and to think seriously about joining us and helping us during this campaign, because we can't do it without you. We simply cannot do it without you. I want to, so please do take a look at that. Everything is in detail. There are a couple events, some dates that you need to be aware of, okay? And the first date that you need to be aware of, and it should be in the mission proposition, is April 29th, which is 3 Sundays from now. I'm sorry, 3 Sundays from now. And our campaign launch will happen then. We're going to start the Beyond the Building sermon series. We're going to be focusing on the book of Nehemiah. And what you and I need to know is this amazing correlation between Nehemiah and Metro. Englewood is our Jerusalem. And God has called us to come and to serve and love the people in this community. So we're going to look at the book of Nehemiah. We're going to go through this for 6 weeks and kind of learn and see kind of how God's positioned each and every one of us in this place so that we can continue to do what God's called us to do and rebuild the walls here in Englewood. It's very exciting. I'm super excited about that. Living room events will be April 29th to May 13th. You may be getting emails on that. If you do, I do ask that you would RSVP as soon as possible and make every attempt to join us for these living room events. There are opportunities for you to ask questions, learn more in depth about the building campaign, the Beyond the Building campaign, all right? Then we're gonna have some vision events on May 13th to May 27th. And that's going to be another important set of events. You might get emails on that too. And I encourage you to be a part of that and make sure you join us for that. The more you participate, the better this thing is going to go for us. Really, it is. And then the most important, well, two most important dates. May 19th, please put that in your calendar. We need you to come back. It'll be on a Saturday for a Leaders Commitment event. That is when we all come together. And so just to kind of let you know that our goal for this building campaign is for us to raise $2.5 million in the next 3 years. So on June 3rd, during our Sunday services, we're gonna tell everyone to bring out their pledge cards. So everyone's gonna get a pledge card. And everyone's gonna make a commitment that in the next 3 years, Peter, Kevin, Jesus Christ, we're going to give this much money to the building campaign, in addition to our normal tithes and our offerings, because we gotta keep the lights on. All right, and so that what we want from you is that you would really think and pray hard about, this is a sacrificial gift that God wants you and I to make, to go above and beyond so that we can be ready. And I hope that you would think of a number, and we can talk more about it if you like, but that you pray, and this has to be a sacrificial gift that we give and that we're willing to give to our church for the next 3 years, and be faithful about doing that. So that'll be June 3rd, but what we want is on May 19th, we're going to all come back together. Dennis, is it going to be here?
May 19th?
Yeah.
To be determined.
Okay, it'll be to be determined. But it might be here, all right? And so we're going to all come together that Saturday, and we're going to continue to be together as a community, and we're going to make our pledge before the church makes their pledge on June 3rd. Why is that important? Because we want our church to know that our leaders have already made their pledge. And we want to announce it on June 3rd of how much we've already raised just through the leadership of our church. And so we want you to come prepared on May 19th with a number. And then you'll come prepared for that. And then on June 3rd, as we come and as we celebrate, everyone else fills out that amount. But we also ask that on June 3rd that you would bring your first fruits offering to that day. And you won't be able to give all of it unless you want to. But hopefully you could bring some of it, a first fruit, so that we can start this process initially and we can start moving forward with this. And so that's sort of the dates there. And I hope I have answered all the questions, Dennis. Did I, Dennis?
Yes.
Can I introduce the campaign directors? All right, so in order for this thing to happen, we have 10 teams. And we have 2 campaign directors that are leading this charge for us. They're amazing people. All right, Matt and Margaret Chan, all right? Matt Kang and Margaret Chan, they are our campaign directors, and they're gonna come up and they're gonna introduce all the ministry team leaders. And my hope is that, like the way you serve this church and allow us to be where we are today, that you would help and serve in one of these 10 ministries, all right? So can we just give a warm round of applause, encouragement to our campaign directors, Margaret Chan and Matt Kang, yeah!
Hey, hello everybody. Thank you very much for coming today. I'm Margaret, hope you guessed that. and this is Matt. And so as Pastor Peter said, we wanted to, I guess, hopefully introduce the teams that are helping to lead this campaign and help put together the events like this and the upcoming ones listed here together. And so although we have leaders for each of the teams, they need volunteers and they need folks to help so that it's not just the team leads that are making this campaign event work, but it's really all of us collectively together as a team and as a community that are going to make this happen. So with that,
Can you speak into the mic?
Oh, sure. No problem. So with that, we have 10 teams. I think Bill's here. Is Bill here? Bill Roche? Okay, it's not. He's fulfillment leader. Scott Post is admin.
Raise your hand, Scott.
Raise your hand, Scott. There you go. Teo, calling team. He's with the kids. Okay. And Eric and Kathy, stakeholder. 2, right there. Neil Lynch, student ministry. Right there. And Pastor Sunita, prayer team, of course. And media and communication, of course, Tim. And we have Dennis Yap, leadership. There you go. And Mike E, vision events and UG team. Mike is...
He's teaching marriage classes.
Okay, everyone's busy. And last but not the least, Angie and Susan, celebration event. So they definitely need your help. And if you need their contacts, let us know, and we'll, certainly connect.
Yeah, and maybe just a little bit more. So again, we have 10 different teams that are helping to do this. And just to run through it again, so as Pastor Peter talked about the different upcoming events, each of the, we have a few of the teams that are helping out set up each of the events. But on top of that, some of the teams are working across and helping all the teams out. So in particular, we have Scott Post leading the admin team, and that's the team helping to support with all the materials and the print stuff so that each of the events have those items. We have Tejo, who's heading up the calling team. Again, we need folks to RSVP, but we all know that I think as a community, we're not as good with RSVPing, so Tejo and his team are there to follow up with text messages and phone calls to get folks to RSVP and come to the events. Pastor Sunita leading our prayer team. Again, this is not just our effort, but this is God-sized effort, and we need to be praying that we as a community are really doing what God wants, and that He'll continue to bless us and hopefully make this happen. So if you feel called to be praying and helping with that, Pastor Sunita is leading the team. Again, also if you have skills in media and communication, Tim and his team need a lot of help putting together material and making it really vibrant and come alive. I think in the invite for today, I think you will have seen Pastor Peter's video message, and that was Tim and his team working to put that together. And then lastly, leading up to two things. Lastly, leading up to the actual event day of the celebration event where we as a community make our commitment. Angie and Susan are leading that event. But again, it's not just them pulling together and putting on that event day. They will need help to help put it together. So hopefully you'll feel called to do that. And likewise, if none of this resonates with you, hopefully you'll feel compelled to help continue this journey forward. It's not just us coming up to June 3rd, but it's a 3-year process. So Bill leading the fulfillment team, during the course of the 3 years, we will need help to follow up with folks, make sure that they are continuing with their commitments, and encouraging folks. And we also may have new folks coming to Metro, so we want them to also be engaged and get an idea of what Metro's vision is and why we're doing this. So that's just a high-level summary of what's what the teams are. I think one last date that wasn't in your packet is the leader equipping meeting, which will be in 2 weeks from now, and that's to give you more information about these teams and kind of what's going to happen between the launch date on April 29th and leading up to the commitment day on June 3rd. So when you get the e-bike, please RSVP, and we hope you'll attend and get some more information. And at the end of the day, we hope you'll participate. So thank you.
Thank you. And so this is the time where you can ask any question you'd like. Now, I cannot guarantee that I know the answer to the question, but I'm going to ask Kevin to come up too, because he's a lot more knowledgeable about this stuff than I am. And so he's going to help us out with this too. But if you've had an opportunity just to even take a little gander of the mission prop, maybe you've had some questions, feel free. This is your opportunity to ask any question you like about this campaign so that we can answer it the best way we can. So any questions? This will be your mic. This will be your mic. So yeah. Oh, Lindy.
$3 million I can't wrap my head around, so I have a suggestion. I had kind of like worked out numbers thinking that we had 600 members. I don't know if that's what the number is. But if we take 156 weeks, that's 3 years, and divide it by, 3 million, that's 600 people, it comes down to a doormat. I can connect with a doormat. I can't connect with 3 million. So I think whatever we do, if we have the ability to bring it down to, filter it down so that people can say, oh, I can do that. I think that, number one, is kind of.
Okay, thank you for that. No, we will, and I don't know if you have anything to say, Kevin, but yeah, just as you think about, this is a time where, as you read the mission proposition, that you would really start thinking about how you can get involved in this and what financially makes sense for you, and also stretch. This is faith giving, and as we do that, hopefully God will just stretch all of our faiths as we do this, and there'd be a tremendous blessing in our own lives as we do that. So, yeah, but thank you for that.
Hi, we had another church raise a lot of money before, and they had used a mortgage, like a loan, like a interest-free loan that maybe people can do.
An interest-free loan?
Yes.
I'm-
So the interest is charitable, but the loan is repaid.
So are you talking about people taking loans to give to the capital campaign, or our church taking that loan for the building?
So whatever is left over, the church gives. The loan goes to the people, but then
It's like it's borrowing from the bank or whoever. We borrow from the congregation so people can use their own like savings, life savings or something like that to put into the church. That's one way of raising money, but that may be for later.
Okay. I don't know, you want to answer that, Kevin? I'm not fully following.
Yeah, we are at a place where we're investigating all different avenues of financing, because we're not operating under the expectation that we're going to raise enough to pay for the entire building. So what we're hoping to do is raise enough for a very significant down payment, so that then we could have a mortgage on the building. Any creative ideas like that in terms of financing, if you could get that information to us, we're looking into everything. I mean, Lindy's suggestion here, let's make it bite-sized pieces so people can actually wrap their hands around it. Great suggestion. Please get those to us, and we can investigate those things. We are working with our denomination, the Evangelical Covenant Church. They actually have a department that does church financing. And so one of their guys there is working with us and has been for years. So we have a great relationship with them. But yeah, please do share any suggestions with us. Yeah, thank you.
So from what you just said, just to clarify, the $3.5 million or however much we're raising.
$2.5 million.
$2.5 million in 3 years is not intended to pay for the whole building that we're going to build. It will be bigger. This is enough to be able to do a down payment, correct?
That is correct. And what we've been told right now at our current mortgage, or the current interest rates that are out there that would be available to us if we were ready to pull the trigger right now on a mortgage, that what we're paying right now on our monthly rent for this and the office and our storage space would make would make mortgage payments on a $7.75 million mortgage. So that kind of puts us into the ballpark of what we'd be looking at for our payments. If through this Beyond a Building campaign we can raise enough for the down payment, then those basic pieces are in place in a rough way, yeah.
Any other questions?
Any building you have in mind?
Any building? The question is, do we have a building in mind? Liberty School is something that we've always talked about, and it's, if you know where the circle is in Englewood by the 7-Eleven, the H Mart, that stuff. So there's a school called Liberty School that's definitely an option for us that we're looking into. And we're slowly connecting with the city folks and seeing what that would entail. In fact, we actually had a building specialist come out, and we actually did a walkthrough on Tuesday. And he's helped our denomination, a lot of our churches out before, and so he walked through it. We even went up to the attic, and he just looked at everything, and so he kind of, he's going to give a little report to us, see what it will look like if we were to get that. There's another potential spot that I'm not at liberty to share with you guys at this point, and not because I don't want to, just because it's still very much in the air, and I don't want to get people's hopes high. and if I do, then and it doesn't work out, it's going to be disappointing. And so this will be just an opportunity, like we just keep praying, but I firmly believe that God is going to give us a facility and a spot exactly where we need it to be. I believe that God will do that for us because He wants us to be here. So, yeah. So once more information becomes available and it's more substantial, we will share it with you as soon as possible. There's one question back there, and then we'll get back to you, Lindy. Yeah.
So this is a public fundraising, right? Is it limited to just the audience and the church members, as opposed to setting up like a GoFundMe page where you can talk about what your mission is, how it's to help the community, and maybe have other people who are not familiar with the church contribute?
Yeah, I think that's certainly an opportunity and avenue that we can do that with. But if you look at GoFundMe, it only really works for people that kind of know you. And I think definitely we're open to outside people contributing to this, especially if you know people that know you and trust you, that they would be open to introducing us. And rather than doing the GoFundMe, I think it'd be better for us just to sit down and have a conversation and talk to them. I don't know if I've ever seen a GoFundMe page that had a $2.5 million goal, so I'm not sure about that. So it could be quite a kind of substantial amount of money. But I think for any kind of fundraiser for a building, if the people are not willing to give the majority of it, nobody on the outside will, because this is our church. And so we do want you to connect us to some people who might have some deep pockets, who trust you, and if they trust you, then I think they might be open to hear what we have to say about the potential facility. So if you know anyone, please come to me and Kevin, and we'd love to set up that appointment, okay? And just somebody who might be willing to give generously to this capital campaign, or not even super generously, but they're willing to give to it. We're happy to meet with them and talk to them about it, because we do believe it's a great opportunity for our community here. So there are some opportunities, I think, on the outside, but for now, I think, according to even our consultant that we've hired for this, it really should come from the bulk, from the people here. So, Mindy?
I was just wondering if the superintendent of schools knows if there are any pieces of property that, first of all, are tax-free because it's a school, that they would think of, selling to us at a reduced rate. It gives them income that they hadn't anticipated. Of course, I'm heading to this one piece here, but then also I'm thinking up by the high school. There's all that empty space up front. It's acres on the right side between those two schools that we want to serve.
Yeah, I would say we'd have better luck with the city than the school. Yeah, we're a threat to the school. We're a threat to the establishment. So, yeah. Part of what Metro Life's about is really saying that, and we're not saying this, but we're telling them that you're not doing your jobs well enough, so we're going to come and do it. And so we're a threat to them right now. Yeah.
Can I ask, what percentage is this 2.5 million to the total that we're expecting to finance?
25%. So it's 10 million. Yeah. It's in the mission prop if you take a look at it too. So yeah, we're hoping, honestly, Marilyn, we're hoping that it'll be lower, and we're hoping we'll find something much cheaper. In fact, I talked to this guy that was with us on Tuesday, and he said, we can maybe even approach the city and do something very creative at the YMCA. Do you know the YMCA? They don't pay a penny for their buildings. They say, you give it to me for free, and we're going to provide a service for the community. And so they kind of do that route too. So we can enter into that, but they're a non-religious organization. Right. We're not. So, but who knows? Who knows what could happen? We can do like maybe a 100-year lease at $1 a year, and we'll do the construction. That's an option that he said we might be able to even do.
So just to be clear, the $10 million building is what we estimate that is the need that the church will have when we grow. So that's where we're getting that $10 million, is that correct? Mm-hmm. So we're saying that's, it's not just a random number.
No, to have a 40 to 60,000 square foot space in this area would cost about that amount. Actually, that's probably still on the low end. Yeah. So. What is that? Prefabricated. Oh, prefabricated. Yeah, prefabricated. Yeah. Anyone else? Dennis.
I'm sure you guys took a preview of the mission proposition, and I hope you guys like that. But you'll love the fact that that's only 50% of what we actually wrote. There was actually a glitch in the printer, so it didn't print out the even numbers. So, what we'll do is we'll send you the PDF of the mission proposition. Yeah, I think there's a glitch in the printer. Plus, we're recording this video so that there's a lot of detail, a lot to digest. So we'll send you a video diary of today's meeting so that you guys can take a look at it if you miss any particular point.
Folks, this is the second time this has happened. I'm not sure why, but this is really sad. So we're sorry about that. I'm not sure why this happened again. I remember when I was with the stakeholders and I printed it out myself, and for some reason we missed like one of the most important pages. And so this is the second time, so it's kind of like deja vu. So it's kind of disheartening, but it's okay, we will prevail, and we'll get it to you, especially if you send us an email, we will send it to you electronic file so that you can get all the information that you need. But also on the 29th of April, we will have, this is gonna be all converted to something more beautiful. We have graphics team working on it, and you'll get the mission prop for sure in its entirety, right Tim? In its entirety on the 29th of April. We won't make this mistake for the third time, I hope not. But yeah, so we'll make sure we do that. Nicole. Well, why don't we do Kathy and then Nicole? Kathy and Nicole, since Kathy's already there.
Sorry, I was just kind of wondering, so what happens after June 3rd?
Yeah, we celebrate. And Tim and I are going to go somewhere, and Kevin, we're just going to go have fun for a little bit. No, that's a pledge. That's a pledge. And then there's a fulfillment team that I know Margaret mentioned and Matt mentioned. And that team is there to continue to encourage the people who've made those pledges to be faithful to the pledge for the next 3 years. So that's key. On top of that, there's also, God brings a lot of new people to our church. And so there'll be other events to connect with some of these newer folks and so that they can be a part of giving to this campaign. So that's kind of it. We're looking right now for a space. We're intentionally, actively looking for spaces right now in Englewood, but it has to be in this area because it's got to be within walking distance so that kids can come and be there, you know, so it cannot be all the way up in Ward 1 or Ward 2, but we need it to be in this area, this location, so we're just really praying that God would be able to move and there'll be some really neat things that will happen through it. So, yeah, so we're looking actively. Nicole.
I was just wondering if we had considered doing like a needs assessment within the city, like maybe in different locations that we're trying to, because I do know that Englewood really wants a community center. There's a lot of chatter about it.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering, because since this is a community that we want to serve, we need to know what they, you know, so they have a buy-in.
Yeah.
What is it that you want?
Yeah, Sunita's already started that, and April 22nd, I made that announcement today. That's a big part, to get everyone together. It's great to have somebody who's been a part of this city for her entire life that kind of understands the needs of the city. But the April 22nd, if you live in Englewood, please attend that meeting because a unified voice to the government of the city is going to be really important. And so we're trying to start to create that critical mass of Englewood residents to come together and to be on the same page, and hopefully that they would be really in support of us. Preston's church as well, which they are, they would be in support of us of doing this community center for the city. Yeah, so hopefully that'll be great. And you know, Preston, who's the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, he's also have committed to contributing to this capital campaign. And so it's not just, hey, we support it, but him personally, he's contributing thousands of dollars to this. And so I'm very grateful for his belief in what we're doing here. So it's really great that we have somebody like that to support us in that way. So, yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Carol.
I can just stand up. So it says here that we're going to do 40 days of prayer and fast.
Yes, we are.
So I'm interested in the details on the fasting.
Yes. You can fast for all 40 days, which is not necessarily recommended. It's 40 days where somebody in our community will be fasting every day for the next 40 days. Yeah, that's right. It's not, so starting next Sunday, or actually the Sunday after, Kevin, I think Pastor Sunita's going to have a table outside, and we're going to invite the entire church to sign up. So there's going to be a calendar, and people can write down their names on which days they'd like to fast for, and then we'll have a prayer sheet. People can pray. Now, if you want to fast for all 40 days, go for it. All right, I'm not going to do it. Are you going to do it, Kevin? No, okay, so we're not going to be fasting for all 40. We'll be fasting, but we're not going to fast for all 40 days, but we will be fasting. Yeah, so, but anyway, yeah. So, and you know, just to be very completely honest with you, I talked to Sunita this week. Her team is already full. So if you're thinking about the prayer team, you can sign up if you really feel led to be on that team, but she doesn't necessarily need any more volunteers because she was able to raise up a full team of people that are serving in that capacity with her. So she's very excited about that. So just to let you know. Anything else? Yes, John. Yeah. Yeah, we'll be here until we move to our final facility. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, there's nothing, I wish I would say that we have a space right now, so here's the timeline. But our hope is that we'll continue to stay here, we'll continue to use our office space until we find a space and get ready to move in. We think that that'll probably take 3 years.
So how does that affect our growth,
I mean, we're basically going to be where we are, yeah. I mean, 800, maybe, I mean, at Thanksgiving, we actually had 1,000 people with kids and with adults. So it shows us that we can even get even more uncomfortable if we wanted to. So, you know, our first service is actually not 95% full. I would say it's probably like 60%. So if you guys ever want to come to our first service, sacrifice your seats, that would be really missional, you're thinking. Yeah, we'd really appreciate that. So that could be one way, just clear out the seats for a second so that first service could have more. And then this way, it'll be more seats available for a second service. Yeah, so, but at this point, we're pretty much, this is the number we'll be at until we move to our new space. And church experts say that once you move into, like, even our denomination, once we move to a facility that much bigger, we'll grow that much faster. And they said even within a year, we could probably even max it out. Yeah, so any event. So there will be pretty exponential growth once we move into a facility like that. Remember when we first moved here? Any old timers remember when we first moved here? We were like, this place is huge. How are we ever gonna fill this place up? And we did pretty quick. We did pretty quick. It was pretty crazy. So stand up, man. I've got to acknowledge you. What's that? This guy, he lives, how far do you live from here?
2 hours.
Yeah, use the mic.
2 hours.
All right, and he's a part of our church. How? How are you a part of our church? What do you do to stay connected to us?
I watch online.
Every Sunday he watches online. And he's here. And he just said, my life has been transformed. I'm like, really, watching online? So Tim was very intrigued by that. But anyway, yeah, state your name so everyone knows who you are.
Hi, my name is Jeff. I actually became a pseudo member, if you will, of the church by Rich Huang, a friend of his long time. Pastor Peter spoke at his wedding. I started watching online since then. And it's funny, I was trying to think about, why am I here? What am I going to contribute, etc. But now I'm thinking is, because I'm someone who's been watching online, and my life has been dramatically changed. So don't worry, I'm not going to give a full testimony here. maybe one day you'll hear, but I won't before you. But it's the fact that it changed me so much. How many more people who live even further away can be potentially changed? And who knows, people who may over time become comfortable tithing to the church because they feel as though their lives have been impacted. My question is there a sort of, because they're not mutually exclusive, is there a sort of a plan for expanding the presence beyond, folks who attend here every Sunday, who then may end up contributing to that capital campaign over time? Because, I'm thinking I could potentially be an example for, other folks.
So you're going to start Metro down there in South Jersey for us? All right. Okay. No, it's good. No, thank you. That's a great question, and I'm so glad you asked it. And you know what? I wouldn't have mentioned it to you guys if you didn't ask it. We still would like to pursue doing multi-sites going forward. And, capital campaign, we want to build a base here in Englewood. Englewood would be like our center place in which everything kind of grows out of. But because we are limited in space, just to kind of answer your question back there, Jung, is that we hope that maybe by end of next year or so, in 2019, that we would start a multi-site in your area, like the Jersey City area, Edgewater, Cliffside Park, that area. So people who live in that area, that's your oikos, your community, that you then can invite your neighbors and friends that live in that area to come. Because, coming out, who from Jersey City wants to come all the way out to Englewood? It's kind of far. You would, because you know the church. So any event, we're planning to do that, to do multi-sites in the future, and that would definitely be something that, if there starts to be an online contingency of folks down south watching, then we could probably do like a multi-site even there one day. And here's the cool thing, in the past I thought, we needed like money to do this, and we still need money to do it, but I'm very grateful because, Michael Carrion, who is a pastor and is kind of like a part of our church in some ways, he is the director of church planting for Redeemer. And Redeemer has a very aggressive church planting movement. And because your leaders will share this with you, but don't go out and talk about this, all right? But he's the director, one of the directors of church planting for that Redeemer church planting movement. And he recently, we've been connecting, because he lives in Inglewood now. He lives in the Metro House, if you don't know. So he's there, and he just said to me, he said, if you're gonna plant a multi-site church, Redeemer can pay for it. And there's a way that we can get funding from that. And so we talked about it. He double checked to make sure. So I said, well, we're not going to be called Redeemer. He did all the back work for us, and he said, no, it'll be fine. And so I think God will really bless us as we potentially start other sites. It'll be more of a video venue. And so, the details we can talk about later. But hopefully then we can, as a church, even within the next 3 years, we'd be able to maybe start at least one other site somewhere so that we can clear more seats out of here, and then more people would be at the other place. And yes, then they can contribute to our facility here in Inglewood. And so that would be a really good model. So it's got to be like a both and rather than an either or right now. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So thanks for that great question. I really appreciate it. Anyone else before? Yes?
Is there any assist or aid from ECC?
Money?
Money or otherwise?
Well, really, they're the ones providing the loan for us, and really the consulting and all the advice on how to do this. They've been instrumental in all of that. So they've been huge. I mean, they came out here on Tuesday. We didn't pay for that. They came out and they spent time with us on how to do this. And so they want to protect their investments, and we're an investment to them. And so they're take it very seriously in kind of who we need to connect with so that this can happen in a real tangible and in a way with high integrity as well, and stuff. And I think another thing that we want to mention, I know some of you have been a part of capital campaigns with churches, and it's destroyed your church. And that's really true. And sometimes you hear horror stories where, somehow, the pastor or somebody took some money and left. I don't want to say it will never happen. I don't think that will ever happen here at our church, partly because, I think we have a strong auditing process. We have an accounting firm that audits us every year, but there's a lot of securities that are in place where I am not allowed to be around money, neither is Kevin, neither is Carol, who does all the accounting. We just don't have access to that kind of money. And so they check us, making sure that all the money is done and used well. So that's just kind of what we care about here and what we believe is very important for us. So hopefully at Metro that'll never happen. I don't think it ever will. So yeah, knock on wood. All right, okay. I want to share a story with you before we conclude. And did I hear right? Catrice is going to come up and lead a song with us? Oh my gosh, it's like being in heaven. Okay, all right. All right, so before they come up, which I know you probably want to have them come up ASAP. Many of you know the story of our first preview service. I shared it in our 10-year video, but I just want to go back to that story because it was so significant for me. And we were 11 people. We were too small to start a church every Sunday, and so we needed to gather more people. And in order for us to do that, a strategy that we learned from our denomination that we need to have a preview service. And a preview service is once a month you do a church, you put all your resources together, then you invite as many people as you can so that they can preview what your church will look like when you finally launch. That's the whole genesis of what that is all about. And so in 2004 of January, we had our very first preview service, and some of you know the story, but there was a snowstorm the day before. It was snowing Saturday night. And so I stayed up all night and I prayed. And the more I prayed, the more it snowed. It was very discouraging. It prayed all the way up until the day of when, a couple hours before the service started. I was so defeated. I felt so defeated. I didn't feel like anyone was going to come out. And I walked to that Fort Lee Athletic Club, and I still remember just opening that door. And when I opened that door, I could not believe the 11 people that were there. They were serving with such excitement and passion as if they didn't even know it was snowing. And that day, very few of you remember this because I don't think you were there. Evan and Shirley were in there. But I broke down in front of our 11 volunteers and I said, forgive me because I didn't have faith as your pastor. And I just said, I want to thank you because of the way you're serving and the passion, the excitement that you have, because I came here completely deflated. And that day, you know the story, 67 people came out in the snow to our service. And God just kind of reminded me, Peter, I will bring people to this church. You don't have to worry about it. Weather is not going to stop it. I will bring people to this church. But the reason why I share that with you is simply this. If it wasn't for those 11 who served their heart out when I was so discouraged, I mean, that day wouldn't have been as successful as it had been that day. And I think I'm sharing that with you today is simply this. I can't raise $2.5 million. It's discouraging. I didn't sign up in seminary to go out to raise money for a building. That's just not how I'm wired. I'm not necessarily, it doesn't bring me passion. And I know it doesn't give Pastor Kevin passion as well. And those 11 who encouraged me that day, if it wasn't for them, I don't know if I would have been able to press forward. And so what I'm asking of you simply today is this. I need you. I can't do this without you. We're not going to raise this kind of money without your participation. Because what that 11 did for me was remind me that it doesn't matter what the outside people say or even the circumstances, but as long as we believe that God has brought us together to build this church together, then we can overcome any obstacle. And I want you to know that today, yes, $2.5 million is a lot of money for the next 3 years. But if we can come together and be a little bit oblivious to even the devil's advocate and saying, how are we going to raise that money? And trust that as long as we serve in these 10 teams that are available to you, that if you can join and be a part of it, we can do something amazing here, where it will outlive us, our children, our grandkids, I hope. And so could I encourage you, after we worship and do a little time of prayer, to really think about going and signing up for a ministry team so that you can be one of those forces for us, so that we can move this thing forward, because it's going to take an amazing team to make this thing happen. And can I also encourage you to really think and pray about how you can give sacrificially to this, so that it's through our gifts and our giving so that we can make this happen. And hopefully through that, our church, because the pace of the leader is the pace of the team. And as we step forward in that kind of leadership, that everyone else in our church will follow. And hopefully God will speak to you in certain ways so that you can encourage the body and encourage me as well. And so I just humbly acknowledge that I can't do this alone. And I don't want to do it alone, because I know it's not going to work. And I'm hoping that as you guys serve and serve with your hearts, that you would encourage my faith the way those 11 encouraged my faith that day, and even Kevin's faith as well. All right? And so with that, can I invite those two amazing sisters to come on up and lead us in an amazing song? We have 2 mics.
Don't worry, this is not going at all.
Guys, we don't have lyrics for you. The song is called Good Good Father. If you know it, sing along. All right? Huh? Oh, you got the lyrics? Sweet.
We'll do it like this, it's fine. Yeah.
Stories of what they think you're like. I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are, it's who you are, it's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am, it's who I am, it's who I am. Oh, and I've seen many searching for answers. know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all your ways. You are perfect in all your ways. You are perfect in all your ways. To us, so perfect. You are perfect in all your ways. You are perfect in all your ways. You are perfect in all your ways. To us. Oh, in love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love, love, love. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am.
Let's stay there.
It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. Everything we see. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am.
I hope these two are leading worship in heaven. God, thank you so much for that, ladies. Thank you. Hey, my last charge to you is this. Almost 20 years ago, God called me to be a pastor, and I was working in the marketplace, thought this was going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And in not so exact words, when I went to him and I said, why would you choose somebody like me? A sinner, not very smart, a lot of issues, a lot of baggage. Why would you choose me to be a pastor? And he didn't say this in this way, but in essence, this is what he said. Because you're weak enough to lead. And I'm looking for weak people to lead what I'm calling them to do. And that's been my principle and my belief in this church. That's the only reason why I'll get up there and talk about my weaknesses. It's the only reason why. I don't do that because there's nothing to brag about it. All of you are weak enough to lead. And that's why we brought you here today. You have a weakness that if you allow yourself to tap into, that God can perfect that weakness through His strength, and there can be something amazing that can happen. And so there are 10 ministries that maybe you can be a part of. that we believe that you're weak enough to help lead that ministry. I want to encourage you to think about rising and go and take a look at it before you leave, but also realizing that we're not going to do this through our strength. We're never going to raise this kind of money through our strengths. We're going to do it through our weaknesses. And I want to remind you of that. So lean on your weaknesses so that God's strength can be perfected in you. So Dennis, I'm going to close this in prayer, and feel free to sign up. The ministry leaders, can I just encourage you to stand by your table so that some people might have questions for you so that you can kind of answer that for them? That would be really great. Okay, so let's bow our heads for a moment of prayer. God, thank you that you only call the weak to do things for your kingdom. Thank you, God, that it's the weak who can do oftentimes things that we never thought we could do. Thank you, God, that it's weak people that would see the Red Sea part, that could even witness a battle that we can defeat an army with just 300 men. And we can defeat an army of 150,000. Thank you, God, that you choose a 13-year-old weak little girl to give birth who's a virgin to Jesus Christ, our Son, the Son of God. Thank you that you would call a little boy to go out in battle, to fight with Goliath, and he actually won. So God, we're weak, all of us. Nobody in this room professes to be strong enough to be able to do this. And so it's in our weaknesses that you would help us, God. Perfect your grace in us, and that we can see something miraculous happen, that we can believe by June 3rd that people in our community would make a sacrificial gift for the next 3 years to give even $2.5 million or maybe more, who knows. But God, that we would be able to be here and our kids could have a home of faith to grow in. Their kids could have a home of faith to grow in, even past our lifetime. And that the city can have a community center where it's wanted one for decades. And that kids can come and find hope and refuge here. That they don't have to get in trouble on the streets, and they can see what success looks like in school because they know and they understand. Teach us, God, to love people with no strings attached, and maybe that be how we do it, because that's how you do it. And we thank you that you invite us. Thank you that you invite us to do this and be a part of this. I mean, what a privilege, God. Truly, what a privilege. So we love you. We thank you for this time, and it's in your name that we pray. Amen. From the bottom of my heart and heaven's heart, thank you so much for joining us today, and feel free to visit the table before you leave, and thank you again.